there are good candidates already on the Fed board who for Fed chair, and they make their opinions known at every meeting. So I don't find that disruptive at all.
Amid escalating tensions between the White House and the Federal Reserve, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has warned that the Fed's independence is at risk from expanding into non-core missions. Bessent called the Fed's monetary policy a jewel box that must be protected to ensure economic growth and stability. He urged a full review of the Fed's non-policy actions, including its $2.5 billion renovation amid steep operating losses. Bessent did not say who should lead the review, but questioned the timing and necessity of the costly renovation project. The renovation, approved in 2017, has drawn scrutiny for overruns and safety upgrades at the historic Fed building. U.S. President Donald Trump has criticized Fed Chair Jerome Powell and questioned the renovation's cost, hinting at possible fraud. Trump has escalated calls to remove Powell, but has not acted, citing it's highly unlikely he'll fire the Fed chief. The Supreme Court has affirmed that Powell cannot be fired over policy disputes only for cause. Bessent deflected when asked if he told Trump not to fire Powell, saying it's a presidential decision.
So let's start with the bill. You wrote a piece over at foxnews.com, an op-ed, and you say
I don't think it's a bit of a pause, because I think what's happened is there's a lot of congestion going into the home stretch. And as part of the trade team, what's great about having President Trump on side is he's created maximum leverage. So by telling our trading partners that they could boomerang back to the April 2nd date, I think it's really going to move things along the next couple of days and weeks.
Okay, so
the empirical data shows that we have seen no inflation thus far, and we'll see over the coming months. And Shannon, there's a big difference in inflation and a one-time price adjustment also. Inflation is a generalized monetary phenomenon. We're not going to see that. And thus far, we haven't even seen the one-time price adjustments. What we are seeing, the business model for many of our trading partners, especially in Southeast Asia, is to produce, 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 and the manufacturers in those countries are taking the price increases into, or the tariffs into their margins. There are good candidates already on the Fed board who for Fed chair, and they make their opinions known at every meeting. So I don't find that disruptive at all.
Okay.
Bessent has been at the center of the controversy, both as a potential successor at the Fed, as well as reports pointing to the Treasury chief as a mediator looking to discourage Trump from ousting Powell. However, Bessent said last week that the Trump administration has begun the formal process of selecting Powell's replacement, months earlier than is traditional for such a decision. Powell's term ends in May 2026, but he can remain on the Fed's board through January 2028. Trump appointed Powell in 2018, and former President Biden reappointed him for a second term in 2022.
We are truly coming off a historic week of President Trump racking up win after win on behalf of the American people. President Trump restored peace through strength and acted decisively as commander-in-chief to obliterate the immediate threat of the Iranian regime's nuclear capabilities, and then brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, which continues to hold. Then, the president traveled to the Netherlands and achieved a monumental win for the United States and the NATO alliance by getting our allies to dedicate 5% of their GDPs to military spending. As a result of President Trump unleashing American energy dominance, summer gas prices are at the lowest they have been in 4 years, heading into the July 4th week. And with the incoming Trump economic boom, the stock market continues to roar back, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both hitting record highs. And on this point of an economic boom, I bring to you original correspondence from the President of the United States to our Fed Chair, Jerome Powell. As the President has consistently stated, the American economy is booming. And there were so many economic analysts who said that this president's policies would drive our economy down, when in fact we have seen the opposite. We've seen a massive deregulation campaign take place. We've seen inflation completely diminished from where it was under the reckless spending and the bad policies of the previous incompetent administration. I would remind the Fed chair, and I would remind the entire world, that this is a president who was a businessman first, and he knows what he is doing. He has a proven economic formula that worked in his first term as president, and it is working again. The one problem that remains is high interest rates for the American people. The American people want to borrow money cheaply, and they should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we have interest rates that are still too high. So the president sent this note to the Fed chair today. And if you look at this chart, this is a chart of all of the interest rates of many countries throughout the world. At the top is Switzerland. They're only paying a quarter for interest rates. Cambodia, Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Botswana, Barbados, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Cuba, Sweden, Morocco, Cabo Verde, South Korea, Algeria, Canada, Albania, Libya, Malaysia, China, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Czechia, Bolivia, Australia, Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, Bosnia, United Kingdom, and the UAE are all paying lower interest rates than the United States of America, which has one of the hottest and strongest economies in the world. The president sent this note to the Fed chair. It says, Jerome, you are as usual too late. You have cost the USA a fortune and continue to do so. You should lower the rate by a lot. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being lost, and there is no inflation. And the president is right. There is historically low inflation thanks to his policies. And we will continue to drive down the cost of living in this country for Americans. We will continue to deregulate. And it's also incredibly important that we pass this one big, beautiful bill, which is the largest tax cuts in American history. And that's why the White House and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed. And they are working very hard to do so. It remains a top priority for the president. And this bill has exposed the clear differences between Republicans and Democrats in 2025. The Democrats are doubling down on craziness and radical policies that are undermining the very fabric of our country. Just look at the Democrat nominee for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. He's a Democrat socialist, really a communist, who proudly calls to defund the police, peddles anti-Semitism, praises pro-Hamas groups, wants Israel abolished, and believes wealthy Americans should not exist. Those are his words, just as recent as this weekend. Meanwhile, under President Trump's leadership, Republicans are fighting tirelessly for everyday middle-class working Americans who re-elected this president, and we're carrying out a revolution of common sense, and all of that is packed into this one big, beautiful bill. It delivers the largest middle and working class tax cuts in U.S. history. It keeps America safe by funding the largest ever one-time investment in border security. It's enough to reverse the Biden border invasion. And every single Democrat is against that, against securing our border and deporting millions of criminal illegal aliens. The one big beautiful bill also strengthens and protects Medicaid benefits, despite what Democrats are saying, for eligible American citizens who rely on it, like pregnant women, children, seniors, and people with disabilities, by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse that threaten to destroy this program that was intended for the most vulnerable in our society. And every single Democrat in Congress is against rooting out that waste, fraud, and abuse, in blocking the 1.4 million illegal aliens who are currently improperly receiving these benefits that should be going to American tax-paying citizens. The Democrats in Congress are more concerned with defending illegal aliens than they are hardworking Americans. And the big beautiful bill also revitalizes our military and enhances our defense capabilities, protects our country from emerging new threats by funding a cutting-edge missile defense system called the Golden Dome. And as we all know, the one big beautiful bill makes the Trump tax cuts permanent. The White House and the president are adamant that this bill is passed and that this bill makes its way to his desk. Republicans need to stay tough and unified during the home stretch, and we are counting on them to get the job done.